Alrighty, so week 4 of the NFL season has just finished. It has just wrapped up. We are going into week 5. For you today, I have my waiver wire claims going into week 5 at all 4 key positions, and I'll be starting off with my QBs right now. Alright, so for QBs, I have 2 people for you to consider this week. Number 1 is going to be Carson Wentz for the Vikings. Carson Wentz did look a little better in week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their defense isn't anything too gaudy, but he did look better than he did in his first week playing in week 3. I'm hopeful that we're going to kind of see a tick up in his performance. If you've watched my past waiver wire videos, you might be like, hey, but you said don't pick up Marcus because eventually Jaden Daniels is going to come back unless you can get him for free. So I'm going to tell you the same thing. Kind of keep with the same logic. If you can get Carson Wentz for free, I would pick him up and stash him. I do think there's a reality where JJ McCarthy may not be as injured as we all are led on to believe. I think a lot of this might come down to the production and performance. There could end up being a chance where JJ ends up missing a couple more weeks, obviously, with the ankle injury. So if you're in deeper leagues, especially, like, this is probably only valid for deeper leagues or super flex, I'd be willing to stash him on my bench only to see how he looks in the coming weeks and also to see how JJ McCarthy looks when he comes back. If he ends up coming back at all, who knows? Crazy stuff happens in the NFL all the time, especially for these teams that are trying to make the playoffs and make a Super Bowl push or run. The next QB is Jackson Dart. He didn't look too great, but he also didn't look too bad against the Chargers. It is the Chargers, top 10 defense. He was kind of running the ball more than he was passing the ball. It looked like when he had to pass the ball and drop back, he wasn't quite as comfortable. If you're in a 10-man or 12-man league and people are rostering more than one QB, I think Jackson Dart is a valid person to pick up and stash. I don't really know how comfortable I would be like paying up to get him because, again, with no Malik Neighbors and this offense for the Giants looking kind of like poor up until week 4 apparently. So in deeper leagues where you can pick them up for free or maybe a $0 fab bid, I would definitely do that. If you're in a waiver priority league, I wouldn't burn my waiver wire spot on Jackson Dart. Hopefully you already have better QB options. If you're like in dire straits, you could try and pick him up, but I just don't know how viable he's going to be to start until we kind of get a few more weeks under his belt and the offense starts humming a little bit more. So it's kind of one of those wait and see things, but if you can stash him for free, definitely would think about doing that in week 5. But when it comes to running backs this week, it's kind of like handcuff season. We are at the point in time where running backs are going to start getting injured, especially some of these older guys or more veteran guys. They're going to potentially start going down, missing games. I want to say for the average NFL running back, it's like 3 to 4 games a year is what they miss on average. So we're getting to that point in time where more and more of these guys are going to go down and miss games. Obviously, we saw Najee Harris go down. We saw James Conner go down. That was in week 3. So the first handcuff running back that I would think about rostering would be Blake Corum. In week 3 and week 4, he did look pretty explosive. He did have a decent amount of juice, so I do like that. He's attached to this high-scoring Rams offense, so I do like that. It's not one of those things where you're going to be able to start him if Kyren Williams is out there. But if Kyren Williams goes down, misses a few weeks, misses a large chunk of the season, ends up going on IR, whatever could potentially end up happening to a starting running back in the NFL, Blake Corum is somebody who would step in, fill that role of Kyren Williams for this Rams team, and end up being a viable, probably like running back 2 for you in fantasy football in those weeks that we end up seeing Kyren be out. So the next handcuff running back that I would consider picking up is Tyjae Spears. Tony Pollard has looked pretty good the first 4 weeks on the ground for the Tennessee Titans, but they're not scoring a lot of points. I'm kind of starting to wonder if when Tyjae Spears gets back, if this offense is going to be like, hey, we need to get some more juice on this team on this side of the ball, and Tyjae Spears kind of fills that role. Chestnut hasn't done anything too crazy on the season, so Tyjae should easily fill back in as the RB2 on this team. There is a chance that it ends up becoming more of a 50-50 split between him and Pollard, and potentially this could be the season that he overtakes Pollard in the snap share for this football team, especially with them trying to go for more of a younger offense for the Tennessee Titans. I do think that Tyjae Spears started to flash last year at the end of 2024, so hopefully that translates over when he comes back this year off of the IR. It's also worth noting that because he's still on IR, if you have an IR spot on your team, you could pick him up, put him on your IR spot, and sit him there for free, and probably still pick up somebody else out here on the waiver wire in week 5. The next handcuff running back who may not actually be a handcuff is Woody Marks. I've told you guys in these videos, my goal is to watch tape for all these games before I make this video. So I have a pretty confident stance in picking people up a week early. When it comes to Woody Marks, I really didn't see the flashes in week 1, week 2, week 3. There wasn't anything that I was like, wow, this guy looks like he could be explosive. I didn't get that vibe or feel from him. In week 4, though, he obviously absolutely exploded, dominated. All of his targets and touches were pretty quality. There was a lot of juice behind the runs and the catches. Ended up with 2 touchdowns on the day. He looked really explosive. I don't know how confident I feel in Woody Marks being like this explosive on a week-over-week basis. What I do know though is Nick Chubb has not looked that good through the first 4 weeks, so Woody Marks will probably get a bigger share of this backfield in week 5. He could end up being like the RB1 for this football team. It's also one of those things to consider. He's going to be attached to a bottom 10 scoring offense in the Texans, so there's probably not going to be this crazy of a high upside week over week over week. He may be more of like a plug and play guy against more like subpar run defenses, kind of like what we saw from the Titans in week 4. He is somebody this week that you probably have to prioritize, because if he looks like what he did in week 4 and week 5 and going forward, then he's somebody you have to have. If he regresses a little bit as far as how explosive he is and how efficient he is, then he's probably somebody you need to have but don't have to have. But either way, probably got to roster him in week 5. The next handcuff running back is going to be Kenneth Gainwell. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, hated the tape, and I mean hated the tape. Week 4, had some juice. Jaylen Warren wasn't there. I'm not in love with Kenneth Gainwell. My brother is a huge Steelers fan, so I am indoctrinated with watching the Steelers on a week-over-week basis because he comes over to watch the football games. Listening to my brother be like, Kenneth Gainwell, more like gain nothing. So I've heard that for 3 weeks. So I'm pretty confident that through the first 3 weeks, there's not been anything behind the tape or the production for Kenneth Gainwell to be like, oh my gosh, this guy's great. I don't know how confident you are going to be to start him. You're going to be attached to a Steelers offense that's closer to a bottom 10 scoring offense than anything else. They're not that explosive. I haven't loved the run game, even for Jaylen Warren. Said it earlier, but he's getting it more done through the air with Aaron Rodgers than he is on the ground. So basically, I'm saying all that to say that maybe week 1 through 3 was like the anomaly, and week 4 is what he would actually look like with more of a share of this backfield for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think that's the case. If you had to spend your fab or burn a waiver wire spot for Kenneth Gainwell, I would absolutely not do it going into week 5. The last handcuff running back is Kendre Miller for the New Orleans Saints. Kendre Miller did have a little bit of juice. The biggest concern I have with that juice, though, in week 4 is it was against the Buffalo Bills, who are giving it up on the ground to running backs. They are closer to a bottom 10 run defense than they are a top 10. So I don't really like that because it's one of those weird things where he looked really good against a really bad run defense. You're also banking on Alvin Kamara injury for a bottom 10 scoring offense. I don't know. I don't love it. If you're in super deep leagues and you need to stash somebody at the running back spot because you're really light, Kendre Miller, if you can't get one of the other guys I mentioned, minus Kenneth Gainwell, is a viable enough option to put on your bench and stash and hope to see that we can see some more juice out of him in week 5. At the tight end position, and I'm going to touch on something I've talked about in other videos, and I'm going to say it right here. So, if you want to skip ahead, but this is important. This is why I hate channels and social media posts and everything that are pre-recording or pre-writing waiver wire pieces after the Sunday night games. There is no way for you to review tape effectively, because it is impossible for you to watch every single game again or have already watched every single game the first time before Monday when you're posting this stuff. It is even more impossible if you've already had these things ready and posted them midday Monday to talk about the Monday night games, especially when there's 2 of them. I think it's a huge oversight. I don't like it. I don't like people who aren't reviewing tape. I don't like people who are just looking at stats. I don't like people or companies who are pre-recording or pre-writing articles about waiver wire pickups who are not paying attention to every single game, especially Monday night games when there, again, is 2 of them. I just don't like it. They're not being honest. They're just looking at stats. They're just looking at box scores. I don't like that. That is just not my thing. I watch all of these games anywhere between 2 and 3 times every single week. Usually 2 to 3 times before I'm posting these waiver wire videos. I'm trying to combine tape with the stat sheets to try and give you a better holistic view of the waiver wire. Okay, put that out of the way. The tight end that I think you should consider picking up this week, depending on your league size, is Darren Waller. If you're in 8-man leagues or 10-man leagues, maybe not. If you're in 10-man leagues who are double rostering tight end or 12-man leagues with deeper benches, I think Darren Waller is worth a pickup. With Tyreek Hill going down, they are going to have to find viable options on this team to get the ball out to now that he's not going to be playing. That should set it up where Darren Waller will be more involved in the passing game. Again, I know he had the 2 touchdowns. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more thinking about just they're going to have to get the ball to somebody. He looked decent enough in week 4. He was obviously in the game plan for McDaniels, so he's going to be involved going forward. So ultimately, I think he's somebody that's worth rostering this week and stashing on your bench and seeing how that usage and involvement in week 5 looks before you start starting him. My second and only other tight end is still Isaiah Likely. I still don't like Mark Andrews. I like Mark Andrews as the person. I like him as the player of the past. That when Isaiah Likely steps on this field, he will be the number 2 target earner behind Zay Flowers. He has more juice and explosiveness than Mark Andrews. He is going to be somebody who's going to end up, I don't know, his second week, third week maybe, is going to start popping off. And then everybody out there on social media is going to say, Isaiah Likely, Isaiah Likely. You can get him right now for free. If he doesn't do anything by his second or third week, you can drop him for free. Right now, you should be able to stash him on your IR spot if you have one because he's still ruled as out. I do think Isaiah Likely was the plan in the future for the Ravens at the tight end position last season. He ended up getting injured. They had to keep Mark Andrews. I do think he will be part of the plan in 2025. At the wide receiver position, I've told you since week 2, I want to say. Week 2 or week 3, you need to get somebody from the Green Bay Packers. It looks like it's going to end up being Romeo Doubs, so hopefully you already listened. Hopefully you already rostered him. If not, he is worth picking up this week. I know he had a bajillion touchdowns. I'm not really worried about that. It was more that Jaden Reed's not going to be there. Matthew Golden is going to take a little bit of time to develop. It's going to be Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft, and this third person. It looks like it's going to be Romeo Doubs. If he is going to be the guy, he's going to be somebody that you're going to want to have on your bench. Have him stashed and plug and play him as needed when you have bye weeks. My next wide receiver is Marvin Mims. I did not like the Troy Franklin usage in the weeks past. I did not trust it. He's still got a lot of targets in week 4, but I do think Marvin Mims has the ability to overtake him as the wide receiver 2 on this team. I've been holding out hope for Pat Bryant, but it just looks like he's not going to get it going for this team right now. The targets are still funneling to Troy Franklin right now, but I think after week 4's performance, Marvin Mims is going to get more involved on this offense, both through the air and a little bit on the ground. He has some of the juice. I think if you're in a deeper league, 10-man, 12-man league, he is worth rostering, throwing on your bench. Probably can pick him up for free and see how he looks and how the usage looks in week 5. So I have talked about this guy since week 2. I'll keep talking about him until the wheels fall off and until he doesn't perform at all, and then you want to drop him and tell me I suck. It is going to be Torrey Horton from the Seattle Seahawks. I think he is worth rostering in deeper leagues. If Cooper Kupp goes down, he will be the wide receiver 2 for a decent offense for the Seattle Seahawks. He has the juice. He's a guy who, again, in week 4 was missed on another deep target that could have been a touchdown. That is now 2 weeks that he's been missed on deep touchdowns that you can still get for free. You do not have to claim him on waivers. You do not have to spend any of your fat. You can get him for nothing after waivers clear. I have faith in Torrey Horton. So much like Darren Waller, Malik Washington for the Miami Dolphins could be a viable option to stash on your bench this week for free. He was involved in some schemed up touches in week 4. This really revolves around the Tyreek Hill injury. We don't know who's going to emerge more as like the second or third target earner on this team. He is somebody, again, who in deeper leagues you could stash, put on your bench, see how the usage looks in week 5, see how involved he is. And if he ends up emerging as a bigger and bigger target earner in week 5 and week 6, great, you can keep him. If not, you can drop him. It's going to be somebody that's really easy to make a decision on depending on the usage over the next 2 weeks. So for the next 2 receivers, it is based off of injury as well. Malik Neighbors has gone down, tore his ACL. He's not playing for the rest of the season. Hopefully you listened to my video in week 2 and you picked up Wan'Dale Robinson already. If not, he's probably not available in your league, but if he is, go pick him up. If you don't have him available, Darius Slayton is possibly another option for you at the wide receiver spot. It could be like a really weird like timeshare for all these wide receivers where like 1 week it's this guy, 1 week it's that guy. I don't know, but I do know right now Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton are the next 2 wide receivers up on this football team. My last wide receiver for you is Alec Iomanner. I've been talking about him since week 2. Gonna keep talking about him. He is still available out there in a decent amount of leagues. If he is available, especially in deeper leagues, I would recommend going out there, picking him up, and stashing him on your bench. He is right now leading the team in targets. He is outpacing Calvin Ridley. He is more involved. Cam Ward seems to have more trust and faith in him. It could be that he's not dropping the ball as much as Calvin Ridley, so that kind of makes sense. He's not the craziest of players, but you have to be looking, especially for deeper leagues, for guys who could be viable later on in the season. At some point in time, I am hopeful that Cam Ward, because of his talent profile and what I think he has the ability to do, along with this Titans OC, can get it kind of figured out going forward. At some point in time, things can be clicking. It might take until the bye week. I don't know. It really comes down to this OC, in my opinion, and Cam Ward getting on the same page and kind of getting it going on the ground and through the air. I am hoping they eventually get it figured out. If they do, he ends up being a viable guy in the back half of the season for you at the wide receiver position. Alrighty, so there are my week 5 waiver wire claims at the QB, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. Hopefully this video helps you get just a little bit just a little bit closer to winning your fantasy football championship in 2025. If you guys play in leagues with DST, tonight I'll be posting my DST video. I will have that down here somewhere below. I have my top 5 options every single week that I would recommend streaming. So if you're playing in a league that has DST and you feel so inclined, I would recommend going and checking that video out down here below. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. No, hopefully you guys will see me again real soon. And until then, y'all have a blessed day.